I'm the Baroness. We are on with my co-host, Snuggy Mick not wearing underpants. And we are here.
I mean, I am wearing clothing. It's not like it's halfway after. It's not like down here there's nothing and up here there's shirt. I am clothed.
Are you wearing underpants?
I am wearing clothing.
He's wearing sleep shorts.
If
you look at the bottom half of his body, he is not wearing underpants and he's wearing very loose sleep shorts.
I'm wearing clothing. That's not a lie. I'm not lying to you guys.
Things.
I'm wearing clothing. You can't
we have
see
live streams
anything.
Here to the left.
And they see my clothing.
So if you would like to see what Bear is wearing on the bottom half of his body, just go to TuneIn BTS. You can see it live right now.
On Instagram or Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Well, either way, I am clothed.
You cannot see his dangly bits unless you get between the legs, though. I'm just telling them.
Do we have news for today?
There's a lot going on. We, of course, had Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's marriage, which everyone is essentially calling the white trash moment of the season.
Why is it white trash?
Because they got married at, I thought it was brilliant. So because they got married at Madison Square Garden, they were actually able to control the entire environment.
That's why I don't think it's trash. Seems pretty well done.
Yes, but people think because of what it is, it was a problem. I disagree.
Our sound engineer, based on your last few comments, said that we should have a leg cam exclusively for me.
See?
No, I don't think we're going to do that.
The internet gets weird, which is one of the things we're going to talk about and what happened to our poor sound engineer. But
oh, yeah. Weird.
Super weird. The internet gets very weird. So people are constantly asking Snuggy Bear for feet pictures.
Well, people are yes, they do, but they're too comfortable on the internet. People that love the anonymity. Someone asked me, someone once told me they're gonna R-word me today. Someone asked if they could bounce on it, and then someone asked our sound engineer if he would take a poo on their face. I mean, it just
that's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah,
it's people. The anonymity of the internet is problematic. I often get my hats criticized. I assume that must be the internet.
Your hats?
Yes.
What's wrong with your hats?
I don't know. People don't like
even
my
what you're wearing right now.
No. When I wear my hats, I like my hats. That's why I don't really care if they criticize.
Yeah, your hats are
nice.
And
that's definitely in the same category as the questions they ask you guys. No, I'm joking.
It's a little different.
In all seriousness, I constantly saying being a woman on the internet is like running through a field of penises while somebody's lobbing penises at you. It's gotten to the point that Alexis has a redistribution policy. If you send her a penis,
Alexis being the producer of this show, by the way,
she sends a penis, the picture of the last penis of the man that was sent to the show. So every few hours, the last penis goes to the man before.
It's recycled, recycled fallacy.
But it's the number of penises is absurd.
I mean, I guess to men now as well, to be honest with you, people are just comfortable saying whatever they want.
It's always been that way. It's shock factor. But people are getting more and more comfortable. I think because most of your audience is male, you really haven't dealt with a lot of that.
You're right.
I've gotten, on the women end of it, women, of course, send naked shots. We had Vincent Ward on the show, and it was like vaginas as far as the eye could see. People were sending naked pictures for him. And poor Vincent was like, why are you sending him to the show? Send him to my social media.
Let me get him. Well, speaking of penises being thrown at you, Conor McGregor at UFC 329 threw himself at his opponent, and where he blew his knee out immediately.
So that was a giant penis, or he's not that big. So a small penis broke itself on stage.
Yeah, in front of 15.9 million viewers.
I'd like to point out
who paid a lot of money to watch that fight.
I'd like to point out that's very close to the White House and substantially less money spent.
Was it White House? I think 17 million. So not because it was Conor. Right, everyone wanted to see him. Whether they wanted to see him because their fans want to see him because they hate him for assaulting that lady back in 2022.
He got less than he normally does out of this. This is considered low for him because people were refusing to watch out of protest. So this is actually this is lower than most of his pay-per-views.
So
check out the numbers. I already checked this.
So pay-per-view, I would say pay-per-view, yes, but because people don't have to pay for pay-per-views animent anymore, the gate in terms of how many views were higher.
I understand. And this is less than his pay-per-views. So essentially, this is one of the smallest audiences on television or / streaming Conor's ever had.
I have to look that up. I'm surprised to hear that.
I'm right. It's my job. I'm very good at this. It's my job.
Fair enough. I won't criticize that. I'm just shocked to hear
that's one of his lowest. So his high point was about 35.
35 million
Mhm.
eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow, holy shit, that's a big one.
That's Connor is, but now that said, there are more MMA celebrities than there used to be. There are more fights than there used to be. There are a lot of reasons for this beyond protest.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people, like you said, who are protesting the fight to begin with.
And Connor has been out of the spotlight. He isn't who he used to be. By taking the gap he took, he isn't who he used to be.
Well, I think there's a lot of things he's done that make him not who he used to be when he was at the height of his fighting fame. You know, between the drugs and punching an old man and the sexual assault and all that other good jazz.
It's funny. The advice I give people, my whole job, for those that don't know, is I make people famous. I'm very good at it. And not just people. I work with companies. I work with brands. I work with IPs. I am probably within my industry best known for that. Distribution is my specialty, where to put whatever you got, be it you or your project. And if you are in Hollywood, if you're in that sphere, I am the one of the biggest names doing that, if not the most difficult person to track down. I'm the person you can't get. So in that sphere, we've always used Conor McGregor as an example because he built himself without us. He built himself. He bought prior executives and publicists from studios. He was very clever. And he built his brand as the greatest fighter before he ever was the greatest fighter. He
came out with that Starboy documentary. He had them follow him around for years leading up to his UFC fight.
Paid for it out of pocket.
Yep.
He
lived on his
mother-in-law's mattress in the mother-in-law's basement. Like, he brilliant man as far as marketing went. He did absolutely everything right. But then he bought his own hype. And you see this all the time. Ray J that you see on camera is completely different from Ray J. You see off camera, two totally different people. Ray J gets he doesn't enjoy crowds, super shy, very nice man.
Speaking of which, he's got another celebrity boxing match lined up too.
He does. I'm going to have to give him a call. You find Monique Slaughter. She played a lunatic on Love and Hip Hop. Bear knows her. I know her. Sweetest person on the planet.
Very calm individual.
But
she's been on the show. You guys have seen her.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Monique and her mum have been on the show. I'm going to go see her Saturday. Very nice human. What you see isn't what you get. But once people start to buy their own hype, if you sell yourself as the greatest and then you start to believe you're the greatest, it's kind of over. And that's what happened with Conor McGregor.
That's it. Humility is such a big priority, especially when you start to develop fame or a name to yourself. When people start recognizing you, it can very easily go right here and now you think, oh, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah,
and so many guys fall into it.
Unless you're Bear, he doesn't get, recognized a whole lot. He gets super excited. So if you'll see him, like, go say hi to him. He loves it. But he got super excited when a guy recognized him in Target. And then he was really upset that he was wearing pajama pants.
So that's it. I didn't. So here's the thing. I used to wear.
It doesn't happen a lot. To him,
lot of
he
comfortable.
When it does.
But because of that, I now make sure that I'm well dressed for going out in public.
Because people take photos, and he refuses to not take photos. So he's like, he at least wants to not look terrible for the one or two people that have walked up. So if you guys see him, go say hi. He enjoys it. But that's what I mean by humility. You're like, okay, I cannot dress poorly because just in case.
Well, yeah, because it also takes away from their photo too.
Although
I will say that someone did,
and that's it. And that's what I think is cute is you're worried about their photo. But it didn't occur to you to not take a photo with them.
No, it shouldn't.
But that's the point. You're going to take the photo. So now he's like, oh, I have to dress. That's not buying your hype. That's caring about your audience. And Conor has moved past that. And that's sad. Now, one of the best I saw was Sam Alvey.
Smiling Sam Alvey. Oh, he's great with his people all the time. At the MMA Awards, he was stopped every 3 inches. But he's so...
It took us 15 minutes to get from... We're at the Sahara for the MMA Awards. And, Bear's talking to people. Sam's talking to people. The MMA guys already there, love Bear and they're talking. And then the fans love Sam, though. MMA fans love Sam.
Yeah.
And so we're walking out and right along the side, everyone lined up to see the fighters come out. And so we're walking along watching the fighters come out. And every, 3 feet, someone stopped for a photo with Sam. And it took Bear, Sam and I were walking to the after party and it took us 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get the, 100 meters.
Not even 100 meters.
Yeah.
It was definitely not a football field. It was 100 feet, I would say.
From the outside to the after party. And that's what it took because the answer is never no. And I see that with Bear. I see that with Sam. I see it with guys that appreciate their fan base. And then there's the guys that buy their own hype. Now, Conor used to be the former. He used to be the Sam Alveys. And he bought into his own brand, which was the bad boy. And then he bought into his own hype.
Yeah, it went downhill pretty fast. But again, I think a lot of other actions outside of his just buying his hype. I mean, because you can buy your hype and then not
Punch an
assault
elderly
someone
gentleman.
in a hotel or punch an elderly gentleman, right? So there's limits to this, I think. But
I think he could have been forgiven many things, but I think sexual assault and elderly abuse sort of crossed the line. If he'd done what that guy did at the pub,
yeah.
at the airport, the one that tried to pick a fight with the coppers.
Dustin! Oh my God! It's turned like it's such a positive PR spin now for him. Actually,
but he's because he owned up to it. He apologized.
Yeah.
He apologized to the coppers at the MMA awards. They were talking about it.
Mm-hmm. They made T-shirts after. It's like a funny moment now.
He's owned it and he's merchandising his own T-shirts.
I think it's also I will say as a caveat to I think it's funny because it didn't turn violent. Yes. It's funny because he was able to collect himself enough to see, I'm being an asshole right now, and the cops they're arresting me either way. Let's not make it worse. So yeah, that was really wise actually on his part towards the end of that. But speaking of people who don't buy into their own hype, are great human beings and
I have to say
for the public and society.
Bear was so excited about this episode because he is a huge fan of our guest.
I brought him on as soon as I could.
For the last week, all I have heard is, and I didn't know who this gentleman was, I have to admit, but I've heard Bear talk about him in the past. I just don't care enough about MMA to ask. And so Bear's talked about him nonstop. And then he comes on, he's like, I've told you about him. And he goes back and he retells me other things. I said, okay, this is the gentleman you were talking about. He said, yes. I was like, so he's the guy that cuts people's faces open.
No.
And that was what he said, yeah.
All right, well, we're going to start
with the video. So
yes, we're going to start with the excellent trailer of Jacob Stitch Duran, and then we're going to bring the man in on himself.
I didn't know he had a first name. You've only ever called him Stitch.
Take a look.
Cuts happen in boxing.
If a fighter gets cut, a lot can happen.
I had the worst cut in the history of boxing.
It was so deep that you could see the nerve.
Not just anybody survives those kind of cuts.
The fight could end.
Cost you millions of dollars, which then again could cost you career.
Behind every fighter is their corner, consisting of their coach and the person that tends to their cuts.
It looks like it's one-on-one, but the cutman is the one who's there to give that push.
And the most iconic cutman of them all is Jacob Stitch Duran.
Stitch is a legend in our sport.
He's worked with some of the biggest stars. His process of, wrapping a fighter's hands, it's a ritual, sacred.
Stitch is the best.
I've been a fan and student of boxing since 1992. As a professor, I study the sport from a different angle. I've always been fascinated by the work of cutmen. But what really sparked my interest was seeing Stitch wearing the United Farm Workers logo on his vest. That image told me there was more to his story.
If you've never worked the fields, you'll never understand what it's like.
The San Joaquin Valley is the agricultural capital of the world. If you ate it, I'd probably pick it for you.
The cotton fields over there, those are the ones that you worked in?
There wasn't many others.
Conditions of over 100 degrees. They did not get water breaks.
We needed fair practices, right?
The farm worker movement created the first bargaining agreement.
What's the connection to this legacy, to what you do as a cutman?
I always worked in the fields and I always wanted to make it to the garden.
He says, I'm going to go follow my dream.
He actually came to the limelight when he became the cutman in UFC.
Welcome to the UFC, huh? My only job is to give that fighter that one more round and protect him.
It was a big story that the UFC was introducing a uniform.
Ladies and gentlemen, the UFC Kid.
Reebok is the official sponsor. Fighters can't have independent sponsors.
So wait, stop. That seems a little unfair.
Listen, they're independent contractors. It should be against the labor law.
Fighters can be taken advantage of.
But the people that were completely cut out were the cornermen.
I'm getting calls from all over the world. And
he was very vocal and made a lot of noise.
And when he spoke out against the Reebok deal,
the UFC has ceased ties with longtime cutman Jacob Stitch Duran.
A rebellion was part of my life.
Who should I call to talk about their perspective?
Stitch Duran was never my friend.
Stitch showed the rest of us, you don't need to be married to them.
2024 inductee of the National Boxing Hall of Fame.
Who would have thought, we grew up as farm workers in the Central Valley of California.
He's been a great representative for Latinos. We all can't help but feel proud
he has become this household name.
Stitch, best cut man in Philadelphia.
Stitch is like the epitome of the underdog story.
At home, he's husband and father, and he's Jacob.
I think the Mexican dream is make myself who I am and be an advocate for my people at the same time.
I always said, I'm taking a bus to the top. You want to get on the bus? Let's go.
If this is not televised, I want that documentary. That is fantastic. I haven't seen that.
I was going to ask if he's got it.
If he does
elsewhere,
not
but
have
hey,
distribution, I want that film.
welcome to the show, Jacob Stitch Duran.
My man. What's up, Bear?
Hello.
How you doing?
This is the highlight of my week, man. This is what I've been waiting for. From
Your
the day I
week?
met
You've
you.
been talking about this for 2 weeks.
It actually has been close to 2 weeks now because it was last Wednesday, I believe.
Every
We
day.
talked about it.
I didn't know you had a first name. He has talked about you for years. And then when he met you, he did the little giggle dance. I've never seen him do that.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to him. You know, right off the bat, we connected, and you know that's why we're here talking. But you know, you're talking about first names, and it's in the documentary he just saw with Michael B. Jordan in the third movie that I did with him. Every day I'm wrapping his hands, just him and I asked him, I said, Michael, do you know my first name? You know my real name? I said. He says Stitch. I said, no. Do you know my real name? He said, well, he goes, I've only known you as Stitch. What is it? I said, it's Jacob. He goes, you don't look like a Jacob. so Stitch is fine.
It's he's lovely, actually. Michael B. Jordan, lovely man.
The
Very,
good guy, man. You know, I told him in the second Creed that because every day I just wrapped his hands. You know, I got him ready for acting for Batman. He wasn't an actor; he was a fighter. But I told him how proud I was of him and Ryan Coogler and Tesla and Steve Capel was a director. And he looks at me and says, Stitch, we went from being actors to writers, producers, directors. He goes, I'm directing Creed 3 and you're with me as long as you want. You know?
Hell yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, you know, Stitch, I think a lot of people just kind of recognize and understand you as Stitch. I don't even know if a lot of times they understand the concept of you having a name aside from that. How did you come to get that name?
You know, it was great because when I got out of the military, I was stationed in Thailand. That's where I studied the martial arts, and I opened up a school of kickboxing in Fairfield, California. And I was working with Dennis Alexio. At that point, was the heavyweight champion of the world in kickboxing, and his sparring partner Dave Rooney. They both fought that same night in Vallejo, California. And I was making the transition from being a trainer to being a cut man. I had to learn everything because of elbows and knees and all that. So I used to see these old cut men get tape, and then they would cut little strips and butterfly. And that's what I did to Dave. Got a cut. And I did that to Dave Rooney. And he says, oh man, he goes, I don't have to go to the hospital. You save me some stitches. I'm gonna call you Stitch. So that's where the name came from. And the thing with Dave Rooney, after I moved to Vegas, I lost contact with him. And I don't think he knows. Last thing I knew, he was a fisherman somewhere in Alaska. But I don't know if he knows how much he changed my life.
Man, or maybe he'll see this and it'll be a first piece.
Where is this documentary playing? And if you don't have distribution, I want it.
Well, let's talk because let's talk because I just last July the 4th, I did a show, boxing show with Top Rank in Cleveland with Abdullah Mason, and DAZN was there, and TNT kind of jumped on it, and I gave them both the trailer. And I haven't heard back from them. And then I have a friend that presented it to Telemundo, and you know, the guy right now is with the FIFA and all that, so haven't heard from them either. But even like last night, Elizabeth Raposo, that is one of the producers with Michael B. Jordan, I sent her the trailer. And so I'm in that position right now. I'm working on trying to buy out the producer and the director, so I could have full access to the film and then take it. But it's a badass film.
Oh yeah, that's
not because it's on me, because it's on not because it's on me because of the storyline and you know, during as you know, I grew up as a farm worker. So with all this stuff that was happening with ICE and sending my people back and all that, I talked to the producers about 4 or 5 months ago, before it was even done, and they let me take the film back home to my little town. I rented a theater, and I invited everybody that I grew up with in a migrant camp and the ones I grew up with as farm workers. It's about 150 of us. And we watched the film together and they all cried because my story was their story. And as you look at it, my story is probably your story somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, very, very
Now,
good film.
I have to ask you, that is not a linear place. You didn't come here in a linear place. A lot of people that grow up, especially farming where I come from and here in America, when people farm, usually they're brought in, you work there until you die. Most people do not move on, at least where I come from, the people that I know. The fact that you went from farming to military to martial art, that is not a linear story. That is absurd. I mean, it sounds terrible to say absurd, but it sounds like a Hollywood film. It does not sound and then came up and then gave up UFC to back people that needed you. I mean, you really you took a lot of risks that people don't take, which explains the fighting. I'm just saying.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. And, you know, it blows my mind. Here I am talking to Bear, walking the red carpet, you know, at the MMA awards. And, you know, and I'm looking and I'm always that little Chicano that grew up as a farm worker, right? Those are my roots, right? And to me, I look at myself and I'm thinking, gee, you know, I'm blessed. And I know I'm blessed. You know, I told Stallone, I said, God, you know, I can't believe I'm filming with you and Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler and Tessa. And he puts his hand on me and says, hey, man, you're here because you earned it. You know, and I've tried to do the right things.
For those that don't know, when you went to the MMA awards, I know Bear streamed a little behind the scenes. Every single fighter stopped and stared at him. He is who the fighters are fans of. And you saw every single fighter stopping, pointing at him, talking to him, trying to get a picture. Like, he is who the fighters are fans of. And that's what I find incredible, is you've really affected this sport and you've really affected how people see cutmen. You are, I think, one of the only cutmen people really know the name of.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was surprising. I hadn't been to a UFC in 11 years since the UFC let me go. And my daughter Carla works for the Raiders and she has connections and all that. So she invited me. And I figured, well, let's go do it. But I ran into so many fighters and trainers and referees and promoters. They came up, man, I love you. And, you know, it just, there are specials. I mean, Bear, you were there. You saw that, you know.
Yeah.
The very, very special moments for me. And they continue to do that, you know. So I feel quite proud of myself. And, you know, I know my parents are gone, but they definitely, somewhere up in heaven, they're proud of me doing for what I do. And the ones I grew up with as farm workers, they're all proud of me, you know. And,
of course. And a lot of the guys who were there are probably people you have saved from having serious, lifelong, debilitating injuries, because you know what to do in that moment to protect them.
I'm going to say to the audience, we are going to go into what a cutman is and does, because it changes we can't even get licensing or insurance without having these guys there. They are that important. But I do want to jump back really quickly. How did you go from farm worker to Hall of Fame? I mean, it's a bit of a leap. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I, you know, on my birth certificate, my address is CPC number 12 for the California Packing Company, right? Yep. And so baseball was my big game. I mean, that's all we had. You know, we played baseball in the summertime, and, you know, farm workers would come in from Mexico, Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, and I would play baseball with these men. So that was my dream, is to become a professional baseball player. Well, Merced, California is 9 miles away from Planada, and I wanted to play baseball, so I didn't have a car. So I would go to school with friends, and I'd stay and I'd practice, and they'd go home, and I'd have to hitchhike home. And, you know, I didn't know about grants. I was real naive. I didn't know about grants and scholarships. And so I joined the military. And 1972, I joined the Air Force. And then I always said if I went to the Orient, I'd want to study the martial arts. That was during the Bruce Lee era. Well, they sent me to a place called Thailand. I didn't even know what Thailand was. So naive. But I saw a Muay Thai fight, and that whole year I dedicated my life, and then opened up a school of kickboxing with just a credit card. But, you know, I had dreams to move to Las Vegas, because it's the boxing capital of the world, and had a school of kickboxing. I had a corporate job with R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, worked with them for 23 years, and I put in for a transfer, and they gave me a week, and I talked them into 2, and in 2 weeks I transferred my school to a student. I put my family in a U-Haul. I sold my house. I lost money, drove 9 hours, took a $25,000 a year cut and pay to move to Vegas. I called my mom and told her I got a new number. It was that quick. So I followed my dreams, and you cross that line, and we've all been through that. I always tell those people that line we're scared to cross. If you don't cross it, you'll never get there. And Bear, I think I mentioned that to you during our interviews. So
Yeah.
I did it. My mentality is it can't kick my ass. So I go in with that, and I could always be a farm worker. I could always pick cotton, peaches, and tomatoes. So that's been my mindset.
Those always work. I like that. I like that. I'm stealing that for my next TED talk.
When
you need a TED talk.
You talk about your basically your coming up before you became the world's most famous cutman with such pride. Is there pieces of being that farm worker that still kind of relate to what you do now? How do they?
They're the toughest people on the planet.
That's just it. But
Kidding?
that's just it. But that's what I don't know from him. Like, how does that change who you are today, having those experiences?
It really doesn't. My mom has always said, we're always giving people, but she said, you give, you get it back 10 times more. But my nature is, keep in mind, and I tell these fighters all the time, these guys are all modern day gladiators, men and women, modern day gladiators, but deep inside, they're all babies. And my job is to take care of the baby. And to me, I take a lot of pride on that. And, when Nate Diaz, and I got stories, so we'll go through these interviews with stories. When Nate Diaz fought Jake Paul a month ago, I hadn't seen Burt Watson and Anderson Silva since we left the UFC. And I'm walking in the back, and Anderson Silva's just hugging Burt Watson, and they're excited, and they don't see me, and they separate. And in front of Anderson, I go straight to Burt on purpose, and I hug him and all that. And Anderson's looking, and he says, "Papi!" He went over there, and we had a triple hug. I love you, and those are special moments, man.
Now, I want to ask, and I'm going to have you explain it because you'll do it better than either of us will. The importance of a cut man. Why?
Yeah.
How? I mean, we've heard people say, it saved my eye, it saved my face, it saved the fight, it saved my life. Can you explain that to the audience? Because he gets it, he gets hit, but the audience doesn't.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And here how I'll explain it is my job is when I get into the dressing room, I'll wrap the fighter's hands. And I think Frank Mir said when I was with the UFC, when Stitch comes into the dressing room, my stomach drops because I know it's time to fight. So that's the first step of them going into battle. And my job at that point is psychology. I've had fighters cry when I'm wrapping their hands, and I let them cry, and I'll hug them and encourage them, and they go forward. So that's my first step. And during the fight, as I'm wrapping their hands, I talk to them, and I give them that, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep ice on you every round. I'm not going to wait till you start swallowing and take care of you. I want you to walk out as handsome as you walk in, or as beautiful, so that's the mental game. And then come fight time, my job is to take care of them and give them that one more round, and I do it through proper applications. But in the same token, if the fighter is getting beat down, like Nate Diaz when he fought, it's my job. It's my job to stop the fight. And after that, Nate thanked me. His father thanked me, came up to me and hugged me and thanked me. His coach, everybody, for taking care of him. But that's what I do, and it's not even a job; it's an adventure.
Well, it's the first line of medical safety. And it's somebody that specializes entirely in knowing this damage and whether someone can go on or not. Because when you ignore that, that's when a fighter's going to lose an eye or lose their life.
Yeah. I was working with Andre Ward years ago. He ended up, the super middleweight champ of the world, but he got cut. And he says during an interview, he goes, I got cut, but the first thing I think about is, I got Stitch. So he took that off of his mind.
That's a good point. You really do provide a lot of relief for these guys. I can imagine it'd be very stressful if they have anyone else backing them. Like, oh, I got this huge laceration. It's going to cover my eye. I won't be able to see. And this guy is not Stitch. I know it's going to come through over my eye at some point. Have you ever had a moment where you fixed the guy real well and then he went out there and just kind of got a worse beating because you did so good he was able to get himself back into it?
Yeah, that's fighting. That's your whole job.
Wow, that's a good one, Bear, but I have to say no. That's a good. Nobody's ever asked that question. I love that. Yeah, fix him up, send him out, let him get the crap beat out of him, and bring him back. Yeah, yeah.
I do want to say as well that I love the psychology you explain behind it. A lot of guys, a lot of young guys who are just getting into the sport ask me, just because I'm usually the only face they've seen, and they'll ask, hey, how do I not be afraid? And I'll tell them like this. It's good. You can't stop the fear. You got some of the greats ever were scared shitless before they went out there, but it's.
I'd like to remind everyone, every time we use bad language, we give money to the Boys and Girls Club of America, the Humane Society of America, and free MMA. We swear because we care.
Indeed, we do.
Sorry.
But it's,
we had to. It's called the Sean Patrick Flannery rule. We had him on the show. He said the F word 73 times in 30 minutes.
It was perfect.
Made $1 million off of him, right?
Yeah. Well, charity did.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, I love that. I love what you said about it.
Yeah, but getting into that, 100%. You know, Andre Durrell, he was boxing a rematch with Jose Esquerregui, and he was taking the kind of shots that I considered will give you long-term damage, dementia, pugilistica, and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the doctors, and they're talking amongst themselves. I don't know what they're talking about, but when he comes to me, I'm working on him, and we're like this far apart. And I said, look, the doctors are thinking of stopping the fight. Do you want to continue? And they just give me a real small no and stop the fight. No, done. And the coaches didn't know. Oh, no, one more round. But as soon as he said no, he was done. The next day, he called me, him and his wife, at 8 a.m, and they thanked me because he says, you know, Stitch, I just didn't have nothing in me. So, you know, not only are there to give them that one more round, but to protect them on a long-term basis.
Level.
No, you really do save their lives.
Yeah.
I think people, you know, you look at boxing, there's more long-term damage in boxing and gridiron. Football, the American football. You guys named it wrong. I'm just saying. But I take personal offense to that. But there's more damage long-term in that from the constant head trauma, especially in boxing. Those big overhands. I talked to George Foreman years ago, and something he said is he's terrified to see who he is if he makes it to 90, is how he put it, because of that damage. And the people he has credited have always been the people that stepped in and stopped, not the people trying to make money and make it go.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. And you and I have to talk because like 26 years ago, I've been in Vegas 31 years. I did an interview on, as a martial artist, you want to always teach, wrapping hands and working cuts and all that. And this young kid, John Barnhouse, had just graduated from the American Film Institute. And he contacted me and says, hey, man, I'll help you. And I know this much about film, this much about anything that had to do with cameras, right? But we ended up during some big fights with Lennox Lewis fought David Tua here in Vegas, and Fernando Vargas fought Trinidad. So we ended up getting so many interviews that we put a film together called Boxer's Nightmare. And it dealt with everything that we just talked about, all the issues that hurt boxing then, and we never did nothing with it because I was nobody, right? Well, John passed away a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and I haven't seen this film in over 21 years, and it blew me away. I almost cried because everybody I have are all legends. I have Mike Tyson before his tattoo, Richard Steele, Joe Cortez. All these guys are legends. Half of them are dead. So as I'm looking at it, now that I have a little bit more seniority, I'm going to reshoot some new interviews and include MMA fighters, because now what was happening to boxing 25 years ago is still happening now. Now it's happening to MMA. So it's going to be called Boxer's Nightmare 25 years later, maybe 26.
Oh, wow.
Apple is looking for that. I have a deal with Apple. They're looking for that.
Nobody has what I have. Nobody.
Perfect.
Nobody has what I have. And I'll send it to you when we finish. You could take a look, and you might not know them all, but they're all legends. I mean, they're older than you guys.
I'd love to say I don't, but my mister actually makes me watch old fights, like back to Sugar Ray Leonard Robinson. I don't know. He makes me sit through these fights. He watches them all.
But all legends. You know, Mike Tyson, real simply. I mean, I'll just throw in some of the things. I have Joe Lewis's daughter, you know, I mean,
really?
But Mike Tyson, I said, Mike, you know, how do we take care of these young guys, these new people coming in? And he says, you know, guys like me, and keep in mind, before his tattoos, guys like me, Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Oscar De La Hoya, when we fight, let's get some more money to these guys. We don't need it. We're taken care of, you know, but let's take care of these guys. That's a hell of an answer. You imagine if every major fighter did that?
Yeah.
Mark Ratner, that's now with the commissioner, now he's with the UFC with the fighters. He says the money comes from the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But you imagine if you charge $1 extra for a pay-per-view and you give that towards an association who, have a health plan or insurance for these fighters. It's
The UFC, now you don't say anything. I know your feelings on it. I don't want to, you've got some contracts and I don't want to screw that up, but I do want to say the union busting going on with UFC, not okay. Just personally, I have, I work in Hollywood. I can say that. You two don't say anything.
No.
He's already.
I know
he's already
you've
vocal
said it,
about
but I'd like to get your stuff distributed.
Let me add to that, because when I do this new version, I'm going to be sitting down wrapping the hands of Nico Ali, Muhammad Ali's grandson.
Oh, nice.
That went and sat down with the Senate, and he explained the Muhammad Ali Reform Act bill. So that's going to be a powerful film, and I got to find somewhere that they're not scared to show it.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah,
I got you. I got the people that are pissed off because they lost the UFC, so they'll put it out despite the UFC.
Yeah. So let me throw another story out of heartfelt stories, right? And Vladimir Klitschko from the Ukraine. I worked with him. Well, number one, in 2012, when the Soviet Union first broke, we took a team of professional boxers and kickboxers to Kiev, Ukraine. And at that time, the Klitschkos were young, but they were stars already. And I saw him, but I never met him. And they started training in Vegas. And I told them that we went over there. I showed them the poster, and we became friends. Well, when they filmed Ocean's 11, I was the cut man for him when they robbed the casino, and him and Lennox Lewis were fighting. And from there on, he told Emmanuel Stewart that was training him that he wanted the guy that was a cut man in the movie. So I worked with Vladimir for 8 years. So anyway, in that first fight, he had lost his world title. And this was his first comeback fight. And actually, I didn't know the consequences. If he would have lost this fight, he would have been done. But he ended up, the first 3 rounds he won. The 4th round, he gets dropped, but I always look at it as a judge, who's winning the rounds and all that. Well, in the 5th round, he gets an unintentional headbutt, and he pops that big major vein we have. Those you can't stop bleeding. So I whispered to him and Vladimir, him and Vitaly, his brother, I said, look, you got a bad cut. I'm going to have the doctor stop the fight. You're winning the fight. So when the doctor came, she says, well, what do you think, Stitch? And she knows me because I've worked these fights all the time. I opened the cut up, and I said, that's pretty bad. Stopped the fight. It went to the scorecards, and Vladimir won and became world champion for 8 years. So, but getting back into that, the last time I saw him was like 3 months later in Germany. And, they're fighting Russia right now, so they're in deep shit. Sorry.
Yeah. No. You gave money to charity. It's a good thing.
Yeah. So, but I asked him in Germany, Vladimir, I said, Vladimir, that moment, why? That's what I asked. And this 3 months later, he says, Stitch, there's very few people I trust in my life. You're one of them.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Well, you bust an artery, you die. So you got to trust the person telling you to stop. But if you lose the fight or you keep going and you lose that way, it's a death of your career. So it's trusting the person you're talking to matters.
Yeah. And then let me just add his last fight with Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium, 90,000 people. I didn't see him and Vitaly till Friday at the weigh-ins because my daughter Carla had just got married in Crete. And so I got there Thursday night, but I'm talking to Vladimir, and I know these guys can't sleep the night before. Yeah. So finally, as I leave, I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, look, man, don't worry about nothing tomorrow. I'm going to take care of you like you're my son. And I leave. Well, listen, that's nothing. So right in the middle of the ring, in front of all these people, Michael Buffer is going to do the announcing, and I'm putting the final Vaseline on him, and we're this far apart. He says, you can call me son. So, oh, my Lord, I got into his mind. So that every time I explain that story, it gives me chills.
I could listen to this
What
forever.
advice would you give? Now, I know they ask Bear. Bear has really bad difficulty with stage fright. Whatever he does goes out of his mind when he gets in the cage and he freezes. Other guys like Sam Alvey, when he was on a losing streak, he could not pull himself out of it. Like all these guys get in their head. What advice would you give young guys coming in? Because there's always moments where they get in their head. How would you tell them to get out?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I'll repeat something that Mike Tyson says. When I interviewed Mike in this documentary 26 years ago, I said, Mike, every fighter has that one little thing that nobody has. What's that one little thing? And he says, you have to take the pain. Take the pain. You have to take the pain. And he goes, you know, you got to get your body in 100% physical condition because your body tells your mind what to do, you know. And those are words from a very, very wise man. So take the pain. You got to take the pain. It's a hurt business. You know, the ultimate goal, and Eddie Mustafa in this film, his quote was, the ultimate goal of a fighter is to render his opponent unconscious. And that's the knockout.
Yep.
And the knockout creates what? Long-term damage, you know. So, but yeah, you know, that's why to me, I don't pick winners because number one, I don't know, you don't know. But I could work with you one day and work with Bear the next day, you know. So I'm neutral. I'm right up the middle.
Ironically,
That's
working
really
with
good.
you is one of Bear's dreams.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you know, he's been very vocal about this. You can go back into his old TikToks. Like that's been one of his dreams. You have been one of his reference points. What is it for you with the younger fighters coming up to know that you are their reference point? You are their dream. And this is MMA fighters, boxers, kickboxers across the board. They all want you.
Yeah, they do. And you know, it's funny. I did Mike Tyson. He's with the amateurs now. He's trying to build up the amateur program with the Olympians and all that. So he has another show coming up, I think on the 21st or something like that. But I went to go help him, and I said, well, you know, I'll wrap 5 fighters' hands. All amateurs, all kids. I ended up wrapping 10 fighters' hands that night because, Stitch, can you wrap my hands? Stitch, can you wrap my hands? And it's tough to say no because those little moments mean so much to these guys, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, giving back like that it's not even a job. I mean, it's an adventure, you know, and I've just been blessed with so many stories and, you know, people coming up to me and for little things. I was at the MMA Awards, all right? And when I was with the UFC, I was working the Invicta fights, which were the all-girl fights, right, in Kansas City. Well, this one girl from Scotland, I was wrapping her hands and she was real quiet and real quiet. I gave her the nickname the librarian, but she would go out there and fight and win. Anyway, I'm walking out of the MMA Awards and she comes up to me and she says, I don't know if you remember me, but you gave me the nickname, the librarian. And I tell people all over the world how you gave me that nickname. She's 44 years old now, but see, I put that. So we hugged, man. You know, just it was moments like that are real special.
You know, you've done this for so long. You've been around forever. You're everyone's standard for what a cutman should be, right? You're the pinnacle. But if every commission around the world suddenly just decided we don't want those guys anymore, we're cutting that job, it doesn't exist.
People are going to die.
Well, I wanted to know his opinion. How would it change in a way that maybe the average audience viewer, the average fan wouldn't understand?
It'll never happen, bro. You know,
of course, and good.
No, it'll never happen. You know, the shows I did in Cleveland on the 4th of July, the head commissioner gave me or asked me for my card, and he wants me to go and do a seminar for the commission. You know, because So no, it's not going to happen. It's too important of the job for the safety of these fighters to try to eliminate any kind of program like that.
I think the only one that ever even talked about cutting it at one point was the UFC. And that was because money, because of course. And this is not either of their opinions. This is mine when I say that is stupid. But
that is stupid. Hold on.
I know. Do you know how many contracts you have?
It
Shut
doesn't
up.
matter.
But between the two of you, I'm like, you are the most difficult people on the planet to keep in the safe lane. And you have taken more risks than anyone I know with your career because of it. You spoke out with farm workers. You've spoken out about unionization. You have spoken out. You've spoke against the UFC when there was nothing but the UFC. PFL didn't exist. Bellator was just a feeder for the UFC. One FC was, again, a feeder. So you took the biggest risk and got slammed badly for it. And Dana White was kind of a douche about it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. and you know, so what happened is, of course, number one, we're all working with sponsors. I was making bank on sponsors. I needed the UFC to make my money through sponsors, right? And same with the fighters. And then for them to go and just, without notifying anybody, go exclusive with Reebok. And everybody is the fighters, F Dana, UFC, Reebok. And so they called us the cutman, Mike Mercy, attorney at that time. And he brought us out down and we had lunch and says that we couldn't do our sponsors no more. And, you know, when they would come to me, I would negotiate my price, but then I would always negotiate price for the other cutmen. try to, making money. And so I tried to negotiate for more money with the UFC, and now there's no money,
Yeah.
So, all right. So I left, and at that time it was going crazy, and John Nash, that's in the documentary, they found him somehow from bloodyapple.com. He called me. And right where I'm sitting at right now, it says, would you be interested in doing an interview how the Reebok deal affected the cutmen? So I go back to my parents with Cesar Chavez and the movement and this and that, and then being a martial artist, So I said, yeah. So the interview was very politically correct. It's on bloodyapple.com, but it went viral.
Yeah.
and it went viral. And as soon as, my daughter says, Dad, you're trending. So Charlotte, my wife and I are in Costco shopping, and I get a call from my friends. We're all friends, right? And they said, do you have time to talk? And I knew what it was about. I said, no, give me about an hour. So right here where I'm sitting talking to you guys, my friends call me. There's two of them. And his voice is cracking because I know it bothered him, And he says, because of the interview you did about Reebok, the UFC is not going to use you no more. I said, all right, boom. All right, well, you do me a favor. You tell Dana I said he ain't got no balls, that he should have called me since he's the one that brought me in. So I'm reading messages, and the first message I read, I send back to this guy. It's a text. I said, I want you to be the first to know. UFC let me go. Speaking out about the Reebok deal, I got to find a new job. I did 57 interviews in a week. I had camera crews coming to my house. It was the biggest thing in MMA. That's when my daughter says, Dad, you're trending. But I got support from all over the world. Now you're talking about Goldberg. I was doing the Glory Kickboxing at the Hard Rock here in Vegas. He comes up to, hey, Stitch, I love you, man. F Dana, man. I got so much respect for you. Wesley Snipes at the Creed premieres. Hey, man, UFC did you wrong. But real quick, the best compliment I ever got is when we were during COVID, I was doing top rank shows at the MGM. I hadn't seen this trainer that trained world-class Brazilian UFC fighters. Hadn't seen him in 10 years. He comes up to me and says, Stitch, we, the coaches, the fighters, we thank you for speaking up because we couldn't. So that right there is worth everything.
It's funny. Aside from Bear talking about you, because I'm not in the MMA world or boxing world, it was Shane Mosley that brought you up. And what he had said was he was proud of you for doing that. And it was just a random, I had no idea. I'd heard him mention you. I'd heard Shane say this.
Yeah.
And I had no idea who you were or what in God's name he was talking about. So I'm sitting there nodding my head. And then all this comes up. And I found that's what Shane Mosley meant when he was talking about him being proud of you. And it was just such a strange moment to hear these fighters, because I was doing a TV show with nothing to do with any of this. Years and years and years ago, I was talking to his manager, and you've come up consistently in all of these fighters' vocabulary. And it's always been the same thing. They trust you. They're proud of you. They love that you did that. And in your case, these are conversations happening without you. What is it like to know what a cornerstone you are for these fighters and how impressed they are with the risks you're taking?
It blows my mind, but they're all just like my kids. Now, was this Shane Mosley the father or the son?
Son.
The son.
All right.
Son.
So I don't know if he told you, but he called me because I've done these fights, right? Hey,
no, not the one that does MMA. This is the boxer, Shane Mosley, the one that fought De La Hoya. Well, there are three Shane Mosleys. There's the grandfather, there's the son, and then there's the son that's doing MMA now.
So he's a boxer. Shane Mosley Jr. is a boxer. They're all boxers. But he signed with Zuffa. So he called me and said, Stitch, look, man, I got a fight May the 10th. Man, can't wait to have you work the corner. I said, look, Shane, I love you, man. I love you like a son. But listen, if I walk into that Apex Center with you, social media is going to go crazy for me, not for you. But Dana might put you in the back burner. So I would love to, but I'm going to recommend Rudy Hernandez to work with you because I couldn't do that to him, and I know because I'll give you another behind the scenes story. Bellator was doing a show on New Year's Eve at Madison Square Garden. Remember when Conor fought Floyd Mayweather?
Yep.
So I'm doing the Bellator show. So I go in the dressing room and John Kavanaugh is there, his coach. He comes up and he Stitch, listen, man, I want to talk to you about working with Conor against Floyd. Yeah, of course. I'd be glad to. It's the biggest thing in boxing, right? So I go do more work and I come back in the dressing rooms. He goes, look, I just spoke to Conor and he loves the idea. we'll be at the Apex Center and training and this and that. So that's all right, cool. So he passed it on to his people and came back and said I was too expensive. I would have charged them $1 just to do it. We never talked money, but they said I was too expensive. But, in reality, how would it have looked as UFC's biggest star bringing in me to train at the Apex Center every day in front of Dana White? And so
Connor should have had more backbone. I'm just saying.
Well, no, I don't think that. That I don't get into that, but I'm just saying is that they said I was too expensive.
Got
I
it.
like that they determined that before talking to you about it, honestly. But
I just got from my assistant. She's like, "You got the Mosleys wrong. It's Jack Mosley, Shane Mosley, Shane Mosley." So before I get hate mail, so you guys know it's not 3 Shanes, it's 2 Shanes, and it was Shane Senior I was talking about you with.
And I worked with yeah.
He spoke. So yeah, and I like the junior. He's lovely as well. I've worked with him. So it's there are too many Shane Mosley. No, I'm kidding. I like the Shane Mosleys, but yes. But I like that you're respected multi-generationally. That's incredible.
Oh, it's great. It's insane, just to have mothers and fathers and wives and husbands and friends just come up and say thank you. Thank you for taking care of my son and my daughter. Or, it's a trip. It's mind blowing.
Now, I'm going to tell the audience we are at the end of the show. I'd love to have you on again. I do want to publicly disclose I'm going after his films, so you'll know that. Make sure you are following him. We're going to put his social media up. Send us a link that you are following him, and you can win a ride at Off-Road Rentals in Palm Springs, California. Bear also has a free trip to California where you can come and fight with him. And we have a giveaway. I think we're going to be in Phoenix, and then shout out to our partners in Phoenix, which is
Embassy Suites Hotel.
He has to say it. That's the deal. So thank you guys for joining us. Stitch, thank you very, very much for joining us. I love what you're doing. I love what an impact you've made on the MMA world. And I'd like to have a private conversation with you after this.
All right. I'd love to. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Ben.
Guys,
thank you. You made my week, man.
He's been talking about you.
Hey,
we left
Bear, next time I see you, I got to wrap your hands.
Okay.
Please.
Bear just geeked out.
All right.
Fantastic. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. I'm the Baroness. We are on with my co-host, Snuggy McFuzzy Pants.
No, my name's Too Happy today.
Too Happy?
Yeah,
it's Too Happy. That actually is one of Bear's dreams. So, would be him getting his hands wrapped by Stitch.
It's anything to do with Stitch. This was part of the dream today. We'll see you next week, though.
Thank you for joining us while Bear geeks out. Good night.